3 little girls vanished after a routine custody exchange. Days later, authorities discovered what no one wanted to find, and their father disappeared as if he never existed. This is the story of Payteen, Evelyn, and Olivia Decker. Subscribe to our channel to follow the full investigation into this heartbreaking case and stay updated on similar, mysterious, and chilling true crime stories. On the evening of May 30, 2025, in Wenatchee, Washington, 3 young sisters were picked up by their father for a court-ordered visitation. Payteen Decker was 9 years old. Evelyn was 8. Olivia, the youngest, was just 5. Their mother, Whitney Decker, expected them home later that night. They never returned. The girls lived in a fractured household. Their parents, Travis Caleb Decker and Whitney, had divorced, and custody of the 3 children was divided according to a court schedule. Travis, 32 years old at the time, was originally from Pewaukee, Wisconsin, but had settled in Wenatchee. He was a U.S. Army veteran with survival skills and familiarity with mountainous terrain. Those who knew him before the tragedy described him as a father who loved his children. He had no prior record of violent crime or homicide. But beneath the surface, there were signs of trouble. Court documents and family accounts later revealed mounting tension between Travis and Whitney. Disputes over visitation rights had become increasingly contentious. Whitney had expressed concerns about Travis's mental health and living conditions, concerns that would later take on a devastating significance. The relationship between the former couple was strained, marked by conflict and unease. On that late May evening, Travis picked up his 3 daughters as scheduled. The exchange appeared routine, but as the hours passed and the agreed-upon return time came and went, Whitney grew alarmed. She tried to reach Travis by phone. There was no answer. His phone appeared to be off or unreachable. Panic set in. Whitney contacted the Chelan County Sheriff's Office, voicing her fears and citing her ongoing worries about Travis's mental state. By May 31, 2025, the disappearance of Payteen, Evelyn, and Olivia Decker was made public. Law enforcement issued an endangered missing person alert. The case did not meet the criteria for an Amber Alert, but authorities recognized the urgency. 3 children were missing with their father, a man whose ex-wife had openly expressed concern about his stability. A massive search effort began. Local police, state troopers, and volunteers scoured the area. Travis Decker's pickup truck became a key focus of the hunt. Investigators worked around the clock, following leads, checking known locations, and reaching out to the community for any information. Then, on June 2, 2025, the search reached its grim conclusion. The bodies of Payteen, Evelyn, and Olivia Decker were discovered near Rock Island Campground in Chelan County, in a remote forested area close to Leavenworth. The scene was devastating. Travis's pickup truck was found abandoned nearby, empty. Inside and around the vehicle, investigators found disturbing evidence. Zip ties were scattered across the site. Plastic bags lay discarded. Bloodstains were visible on the rear door of the truck. The 3 girls had been bound with zip ties. Plastic bags had been placed over their heads. The Chelan County Medical Examiner's Office later confirmed the cause of death for all 3 children: suffocation. The manner of death was ruled homicide. Court documents and investigative reports detailed that the victims had been restrained and asphyxiated. Some reports noted variations in the number of plastic layers found on each child, suggesting a deliberate and methodical act. Travis Caleb Decker was immediately named as the primary suspect. He had vanished. His truck was there, but he was gone. What followed was one of the largest manhunts in Chelan County history. The FBI, U.S. Marshals Service, Department of Homeland Security, Washington State Patrol, and the U.S. Forest Service all joined the effort. More than 100 law enforcement personnel deployed into the vast wilderness surrounding Leavenworth. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson authorized the activation of the National Guard to assist in the search. Helicopters swept the mountains. K-9 units combed the dense forest. Posters with Travis Decker's face were distributed across the state and beyond. Formal charges were prepared. Prosecutors filed 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of first-degree kidnapping against Travis Caleb Decker. At the federal level, an additional charge of unlawful flight to avoid prosecution was added as the manhunt expanded. Decker became a wanted man, hunted by local, state, and federal agencies. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Despite the scale of the operation, Travis Decker remained elusive. The terrain he knew well became his hiding place, or perhaps his grave. During the search, authorities discovered Decker's dog alive in the area, adding another haunting detail to the case. Evidence of male blood was also found at the campsite, though it was unclear at the time whether it belonged to Decker himself. Then, on September 18 and 19, 2025, nearly 4 months after the girls' bodies were found, searchers made another discovery. Human remains were located in a forested area south of Leavenworth. Alongside the skeletal remains, investigators recovered personal items and clothing consistent with what Travis Decker had been wearing. The condition of the remains suggested they had been there for some time. On September 25, 2025, the Washington State Patrol Crime Lab confirmed through DNA analysis that the remains belonged to Travis Caleb Decker. The Chelan County Sheriff's Office announced the conclusion of the manhunt. With the suspect deceased, the criminal case was officially closed. There would be no trial, no courtroom confrontation, no public reckoning. The investigation pieced together a tragic and horrifying timeline. On the night of May 30, Travis Decker picked up his daughters for what should have been a normal visit. Instead, he drove them into the remote wilderness near Leavenworth. At some point during that night or the early hours of the following day, he bound each of his 3 young daughters with zip ties. He placed plastic bags over their heads. He watched as they suffocated. He left their small bodies in the woods and disappeared. The motive remains unclear. Was it rage, despair, a catastrophic mental breakdown? Investigators found no suicide note. Friends and family members later spoke of Decker's struggles, his time in the military, and signs of psychological distress. Some pointed to the custody battle and his deteriorating relationship with Whitney as potential triggers. Others emphasized his history of mental health challenges, arguing that the system had failed to provide adequate support for a troubled veteran. The community of Wenatchee and the surrounding areas were left reeling. Vigils were held for Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. Flowers, stuffed animals, and handwritten notes piled up at makeshift memorials. The grief was palpable. 3 innocent lives, snuffed out by the very person who was supposed to protect them. Legal experts and advocates used the case to highlight systemic issues. Questions were raised about how custody decisions are made, particularly when one parent expresses mental health concerns about the other. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Were there warning signs that were ignored or downplayed? The case reignited debates about the need for better mental health resources for veterans, more rigorous risk assessments in family court, and the limitations of the systems designed to protect children. Whitney Decker, the girl's mother, was left to navigate unimaginable grief. In statements released through representatives, she spoke of her daughter's bright spirits, their laughter, and the futures they would never have. She also expressed frustration with the circumstances that led to their deaths, emphasizing that she had voiced her fears and concerns but felt unheard. Travis Decker's death meant that many questions would remain unanswered. What was going through his mind in those final moments with his daughters? Did he plan their deaths in advance? Or was it a spontaneous act of violence? How did he survive for weeks in the wilderness before ultimately succumbing, presumably to exposure, injury, or suicide? The forensic examination of his remains provided no definitive answers about the exact cause of his death, only confirmation of his identity. This case stands as one of the most tragic incidents of familicide in recent Washington state history. Familicide, the act of a parent killing their own children, is thankfully rare, but when it occurs, it leaves scars that extend far beyond the immediate family. Communities struggle to make sense of such acts. How does someone capable of love and care transform into someone capable of such horror? Experts in psychology and criminology point to several common factors in cases of familicide: depression, feelings of loss of control, custody disputes, financial stress, and untreated mental illness often feature in the backgrounds of perpetrators. In Travis Decker's case, many of these elements were present. He was a divorced father embroiled in a difficult custody situation. He had a military background, which sometimes correlates with PTSD and other psychological challenges. Those close to him noted changes in his behavior and mental state in the months leading up to the tragedy. Yet even with these risk factors, predicting such an outcome is extraordinarily difficult. Thousands of divorced parents struggle with mental health and custody issues without harming their children. The leap from struggle to violence remains, in most cases, unfathomable. The legal proceedings that never took place would have sought to answer these questions in a public forum. Prosecutors would have presented their evidence: the zip ties, the plastic bags, the blood evidence, the timeline of events. Defense attorneys, had Decker survived, might have argued mental illness, diminished capacity, or other mitigating factors. A jury would have weighed the evidence and rendered a verdict. The families would have had their day in court. Instead, the case ended in the woods, with the discovery of Decker's remains. Justice, in the traditional sense, was never served. The girl's mother and extended family were denied the opportunity to confront the man responsible. There was no sentence handed down, no public acknowledgement of guilt, no closure that a trial might have provided. In the aftermath, the focus shifted to remembrance and prevention. Payteen, Evelyn, and Olivia Decker are remembered not for the manner of their deaths, but for the lives they lived. Teachers spoke of Payteen's kindness and curiosity. Friends recalled Evelyn's infectious laugh. Family members treasured memories of Olivia's playful spirit. These were children with hopes and dreams. Children who should have grown up, gone to school, made friends, and built lives of their own. The case also became a catalyst for discussions about systemic change. Advocates called for reforms in family court, including mandatory mental health evaluations in contentious custody cases, better training for judges and social workers in recognizing red flags, and more robust support systems for families in crisis. Veteran support organizations emphasized the need for accessible, destigmatized mental health care for those who have served in the military. Some pointed to the limitations of the Endangered Missing Person Alert system. The Decker case did not qualify for an Amber Alert because it did not meet specific criteria, such as evidence of an abduction by a stranger. Critics argued that the criteria should be expanded to include cases where a custodial parent is believed to pose a danger to their children. Others countered that broadening the criteria could dilute the effectiveness of alerts and lead to public fatigue. These debates, while important, offer little comfort to those who knew and loved Payteen, Evelyn, and Olivia. For them, the loss is personal, permanent, and profound. As the one-year anniversary of the tragedy approaches, the community continues to mourn. Memorial funds have been established in the girls' names. Advocacy groups have formed to push for legislative changes. And the memory of 3 bright young lives cut short serves as a painful reminder of the fragility of safety, even within families. The Decker case is a stark illustration of the darkness that can hide behind closed doors. It challenges the assumption that family is always a safe haven. It forces society to confront uncomfortable truths about mental illness, domestic tension, and the limits of intervention. Travis Caleb Decker took his daughters into the woods on May 30, 2025. He took their lives. And then, it seems, he took his own. Whether intentionally or through exposure in the wilderness he once navigated as a soldier, the case is closed in the eyes of the law, but the questions it raises remain open. This tragedy reminds us that vigilance, compassion, and systemic support are essential in protecting the most vulnerable among us. When warning signs emerge, they must be taken seriously. When individuals in crisis reach out, or when others raise concerns on their behalf, those calls for help must be answered with urgency and resources. The legal system, mental health services, and community support networks must work together to prevent such unthinkable acts. What happened to Paitin, Evelyn, and Olivia Decker should never have happened. Their story is a call to action, a demand for change, and a tribute to 3 lives that mattered. We invite you to share your thoughts on this case in the comments below. Based on the facts presented, please subscribe to our channel to stay informed about this story and other mysterious and chilling true crime cases. Together, we remember the victims and work toward a future where such tragedies can be prevented. In a just society, every child deserves protection, and every warning sign deserves a response. May the memory of Paitin, Evelyn, and Olivia inspire us to build systems that truly safeguard the innocent.